Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Suleiman Suleiman. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics, and we're discussing issues around whether or not the former President Jonathan will be returning. If you have been following politics in the past 1 week or so, he has been all over in the news. The idea is, well, not just in the PDP, but in the APC. And tonight, we're having our discussion around this issue. So Barrister, it's all good that you're both a close observer of politics, but also a lawyer, because there are legal dimensions to this issue. So maybe we start with the political dimensions first, and then we can deal with the legal questions later on. So when the president told these young people, these supporters who were in fact protesting, not just urging him to run, they were in fact protesting, that he should come out and run. What do you think of that?
Well, there is nothing that can amaze an adult in today's Nigeria. Anything is possible. And some of these things that have been simulated, there are messages and narratives that have been with us since about the coming into office of President Muhammad Buhari, especially from about the second term, the beginning of the second term. This narrative has actually been there. So what you see there being acted by the youth is, to me, is part of the narrative. But sometimes there are some narratives, and as a lawyer, I say some propositions that are themselves symptomatic of some underlying social ailment. Now, here we have a political party that was ousted by another political party. And for all the life of the APC, for whatever problems they have, for whatever challenges they have, the complaint is about what? PDP. And for much of the time, why did you have the APC that you have? Was a direct response, not just to PDP, but to what they consider the misrulings of President Jonathan. So the APC contraption, or the APC conglomerate that produced Mr. President, was a direct response to the Jonathan's government. So when you now brought an idea that that same party now wants to give power to a party that they said, if they don't take power from it, Nigeria was not only going to go to the brinks, but was going to be dismembered. They came, rather, so they said, to rescue Nigeria from Jonathan's trajectory. And you're not telling me that 6 years, 7 years, or 8 years down the lane, you are not saying, oh, we should even apologize to him. That's what they are saying. Whoever is saying so is not only very spiteful of APC, it's not only very spiteful of those who put out themselves to get APC together and won the election, but rather, allow me to say this, actually saying that APC as a whole should apologize to Nigerians. Because what? They had no business to come into office in the first place. And that they've done so woefully, so bad that they did not consider themselves fit to produce the next president. Are you really serious about that? Would anybody if I'm allowed to use the word, in their right sense, to contemplate that as a party. I am not saying President Jonathan shouldn't vie for presidency. He could. That is his own fundamental right. He had that right.
Okay.
But for God's sake, he shouldn't be under APC.
Okay.
PDP is there. And even for him, for the respect of Nigerians, hey, he was a product of PDP. PDP is at a threshold. It's at a juncture that they need somebody. So if at all he wants to tell Nigeria that he's better than the whole of APC, he shouldn't be thinking about APC. He should be PDP.
Okay.
If that's the case, fine. But there's even something more fundamental than that.
Okay.
Mind you, as it is now, the consensus out there is that that should be that power rotation. 8 years north, 8 years
I think
south.
we'll come to these issues one after the other.
Yes.
Maybe one thing, it's very interesting, and you have raised quite a good number of issues, some of which I'll be taking you on over the course of our discussion.
Yes.
But the first thing is, when the president said, "Watch out," was he speaking in tongues in a way that shows that he is interested? Because, like we said in our intro, the image that former President Goodluck Jonathan has had in the past 7 years is that of an image of Nigeria, of a statesman, you know, of someone in the same class as people like Gowon, people like Obasanjo, you know, and so on, of depoliticization, you know, being less political and more national, more statesman-like, you know. So does that indicate interest from
If you want me to discuss it,
yes.
I'm not a psychologist here.
Okay.
These are just, at best, intelligent guesses that we make. I think the Jonathan I know is much more of a gentleman than that.
Okay.
It's much more of an intelligent man than these charlatans are trying to sell him to Nigerians. I think he's been in office. He's seen what office can bring. And he has also been out of office. He has seen the two. And if you ask me, he has seen it all.
Yeah.
He has seen it all. If for 6 years, all he could get was to have what? A makeshift political party threw him out of office. Is it 4 years that he's going to do what? So if anybody is selling that idea to me, he cannot be hesitant or uncategorical or cautious.
He was
Say
not
it
categorical.
plain. No, it can't be politically correct by this time by giving that body language.
Okay.
You understand? To come and do what now? It should be much more categorical and let that to rest. Because if for anything, you are just giving jitters some other place. You are just more or less confusing people. When people should be constructing themselves in a whole for the battle ahead. This is not a time for distraction. He should come out plain to say, hey, I know it. I know where that one is coming from. People want to make me an economy. I've been some people's economy, but today I want to have my life back, and I'm enjoying it the way it is. So to come and tell me, oh, because the story, who is out there that hasn't been sold a story to? Why you call it dummy? For every one of them that you see there, people are just flooding the pond for one objective, and that objective would evolve. Believe me, all that they are doing.
What is that objective?
I will tell you.
Okay.
That objective would come. But for now, I would think that Jonathan should be much more sensible than to say, oh, come on, I've seen it all. Not me. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. And mind you, I was trying to push in that point. That point is very categorical. The dummy they will say, oh, the North would vote for you because what? You would have just one term and the power will go back to the North. And therefore, you are much more attractive and sellable candidate. You will have the North And of course, your Southern district, for God's sake.
Maybe,
Jonathan, as a statesman, cannot betray the South, sell the South, because what? He wants to get what again? Is he looking for his Waterloo? I pray not. He has had his day.
Okay, so even the idea, we will come to these questions,
yes.
because even the idea of the North will vote for, the North is not one person. And there's,
That's the dummy.
It's not one person.
That's the
and
dummy.
it's never a time in the history of Nigeria there has been only one Northern candidate in any election in this country.
Yeah.
You would always have
more
candidates. Let's go back to the his relationship with the PDP.
Yes.
Because over the past several years,
yes.
certainly in the last 3-4 years,
yes.
there's been some kind of no rift in any formal sense that
yes.
he's had a quarrel in the way in which former President Obasanjo had with the PDP, for example, in which he tore his, what do they call it?
His card, his party card.
Membership card.
Yes.
But in the case of President Jonathan, there has been that gradual distancing of oneself from one's own party, even at the local Bayelsa PDP local politics. There's been news reports that he's not attending their meetings at that level. He doesn't attend national meetings of the PDP and so on and so forth.
If he wants to,
is he still a member of the PDP? Because if he's no longer in the PDP,
even if
is that an issue if he goes to the APC?
Because even he should be, but I think for him to play the role of a statesman, he has to transcend PDP sentiment.
Politics.
He cannot be selling himself as a PDP man if he wants to be the statesman. Mind you, introduce him as a statesman,
yes.
and I agree, he has played his politics very well.
Yes.
And if for anything, I think much of the respect that President Buhari has for him is because he handed over power. Some other person would have said, oh, damn it, let's rock the boat. But he didn't. And if you ask me, there is even that feeling in me that President Buhari more or less give reference to him and give credit to him much more than the people who actually put him to office, because he did not believe that the system produced him through the ballot, but rather through the magnanimity of Jonathan. I think he had that, and that body language is there. And I would also think that that is what some other people are playing. They're playing on that line to say, do you know what? Mr. President has more respect for Jonathan than even the people who brought him to office. But I would also ask the question, assuming, and God forbid, that he even has that thought of saying, I don't see anybody from within the APC that I can give out. I would rather go and give it to Jonathan. The question I ask is, tell Nigerians, what did the people who brought you to office did to you? What did they do, or what have they done to you that is so ominous that you don't want power to go back to them? You would rather what? Give it to PDP than for any of the parties that form the APC. You should tell that to Nigerians, because that message you want to leave is not a message that is good for you and the region you represent. In terms of politics.
But he's still in Nigeria.
No, but to be the
and a former Nigerian president.
No, there is that
so his politics will necessarily be beyond region.
No, there is that. Let me tell you something. There is that vicarious liability. I'm saying it here because I'm an adult.
Okay.
I'm big enough to say so, old enough to say so, and I would say so. Northern politics is one of integrity.
Okay.
There is something distinctive about Northern politics. Integrity. It underlies that. I will pray for my Buhari not to depart from that. And the only way he could do that, let it be fair to everybody who is part of APC. I have had my worry that the leadership of the APC, as APC, is now in the hands of PDP. Something is wrong. You are telling us a message that will not make us sleep. What is so bad about the parties that make up the entity called APC?
But someone will tell you that the actual number of politicians who have never been in PDP before in the APC are in fact in the minority.
Because
these are
they are not in the minority.
These are the ones from the ACN, AD, AC line, and those from the AMPP, APP line.
They are not in the minority.
All the ones from the CPC line and the ones from the NPDP line, because these are, and the APGA line. These 5 factions, political groupings in the country were the ones that combined to form the APC in 2013. So the only ones that had not always been in the PDP are the 2 in the northeast, Yobe, Borno, largely, and then some parts of Zamfara, and then and Sokoto, and then you have the ones in the southwest. These are the only ones that have not been in the PDP. All the other configurations in the APC have been in the PDP. So who else can you have in the APC that has not been
I don't want us to be
at any time in PDP?
I don't want us to be unfair to history by making that brush. You see, if we look at the personalities, or maybe the word they may use, look at it very as negative, the characters that are now part of the APC, if you look at them from that point of view, you could say they are in the majority, but they are not. They are not.
In terms of
spread,
rank and file,
in terms of
membership.
this thing, the membership, the problem we have is that the APC, as it is, it did not follow the initial principles of the party of inclusiveness. And that is why you have just a very few who are in themselves very insular, that are by themselves now created this so-called rift that has made PDP now much more attractive. But how I'm saying, coming back to it, democracy, the fundamentals of democracy is justice. And justice is fairness. So from within you, if you are not fair to your family member, to the point that you rather have an outsider, history would not be fair to you. I bet. I'm not a religious person,
but
history has told us that.
If you recollect, in 2020, and shortly after 2020, when the Mai Malabuni caretaker committee took over, the former president was one of the persons that they visited in his own house, in his hometown in Bayelsa. Wasn't that a way of wooing him to the APC, or should we say that's where the moves started?
No, you see, as a president, and as a president, a past president, you are one way or the other part of the government. That's a constitutional rule for you. And you have also an individual civic role to the harmonization of interest.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing what the third parties can do to change the political game in next year's elections. I have with me members of one of the third parties, the PRP. So the Secretary General of the party, that's the National Secretary of the People's Redemption Party. Maybe I should start the first question. How prepared are you to do beyond what you did in 2019, in 2011, in 2015, and so on and so forth? How prepared are you to do something different beyond what you have always done in elections in Nigeria since 1999?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and guests at home. We like to appreciate you. In the People's Redemption Party, just immediately after the 2019 election, like you said in your introductory opening, where you have this tradition, immediately after election, parties go to sleep. Yes. In the People's Redemption Party, it's not like that. Immediately after the 2019 election, the leaders of the PRP came together, appraised the election of 2019, and we rolled out the program of the party for the next 1 year. And from 2019 to 2022, barring the COVID problem and everything, we rolled out a program of activities of the PRP that then ran from 2020 to 2021, dovetailing into 2022. And that started with the membership drive. Every member of the PRP, both old and would-be members, were asked to go and revalidate their membership. Those coming on board should register. The party also went ahead to launch a website, the first of its kind in Nigeria to register online. You can register in the comfort of your bedroom. You can register wherever you are. Even if you are abroad and your mind is at home with the politics of your country, you can go ahead because the constitution of the PRP provides for it. You can register anywhere in the world. And we also made available provisions for people to register at their ward level. And that took us from membership registration, the space of 3 months, the quarterly program, leading to the ward congresses of the PRP. We've had that. We've had the local government congresses. We've had the state congresses, everything ending by November 2021. Every state executives of PRP that was in place prior to that were dissolved, and the new came on board. Everything culminated in the National Convention of 2nd April 2022. PRP since 2019 has been on the move, preparing itself for this election, and we know by the grace of God it's going to be different this time.
He said the PRP is on the move, but some people are thinking that you cannot be on the move by re-electing the same national ESCO, you know, the National Working Committee by the chairman and so on and so on, that maybe you need a new blood to breathe new vision into the party and so on.
Yeah, well, I'll have you understand that, well, you know, when you have a winning team, you don't change a winning team.
Okay.
I mean, he's just enumerated to you how the party has been, you know, reforming, restructuring itself. Looking at the lessons of the 2019 elections, it went down again to look at, you know, to review a lot of things and then to put in place programs that would make the party ready, ever ready, to do its duty. And then there are people who have been doing this. There are people who have been doing this, and you know, it's not going to change your team in the middle of, you know, a successful story. Okay. So that's why, you know, one of the most important reasons why the ESCO was retained, because they have done a good job, and because in anticipation of a very serious, you know, electioneering campaign coming up, we need to have them on ground so that they can direct. That's not to say that it was a process that was railroaded and denied. There was, of course, there was a democratic, you know, process that was, you know, adhered to. Okay. But the overwhelming feeling is that the people who have brought us this far successfully should be retained, and that's what you saw.
Interesting. So, Mr. National Secretary, one of the issues is you're talking about a success story, retaining a winning team. For a political party, the only thing that can be called winning is to actually win the election. Or win elections, you know, as in this case, you know. So the PRP doesn't have a representation now in the National Assembly.
We do.
Okay.
Oh, we do.
You had one person from Bauchi who was decamped.
Who has decamped? Wherever he went to, but we will get our mandate.
Okay.
We've gone to court.
Okay.
We will get our mandate, and may I also add that it's not as if the old executive was railroaded or they just pushed things to put themselves back into office. PRP have much more spread in the executive or in the national executive now than it ever used to be. Okay. There are new people that were brought on board. The constitution of the party has been amended to allow for the ESCO to be expanded from across all the 5 levels of the party, and more people are on board. Some members of the ESCO had gone, some had been appointed into something else, some had moved into other part of the party for 1 or 2 other things, and some, the process just did not favor them. For example, a state in the PRP cannot produce 2 national officers. So where it has happened before, all those things had been taken care of. The party has prepared itself for the next election. As to not having people, we have.
Okay.
We still have. Our member was at the National Convention. In fact, he prayed the opening prayer. The Honorable Abdulkadir, he prayed the opening prayer at the National Convention. So we actually have our presence at the National Convention.
That's all right. Beyond the National Convention, you know, what about
I mean,
plans?
in the National Assembly, please.
Okay, that's fine. Beyond the convention, or one member, because it's a 360-member assembly anyway, and you have 1, you know. So which is better than 0 anyway, but it also states where the party is at the moment in terms of elective representation in the country. So we have been hearing about these new parties, third parties, alternative parties, you know. You don't like the term small parties and all that. To what extent is PRP, you know, prepared to make a difference this time around? And beyond an online registration and so on, what other things are you really doing that is on ground, you know, because anyone familiar with the history of PRP would say that the idea of online registration, though revolutionary, if you like, for a political party, but some people will also accuse it as being elitist at the same time, in the sense that in order to have, you need to have a mobile, you have to have data, you have to have internet literacy, you have to have all these skills and opportunities to be able to register online. And PRP is known as a party of the downtrodden, you know. So how isn't there a kind of contradiction right there and then?
The challenge is,
yes,
I won't really call it a challenge. You have a youth demography that forms bulk of the electorate in Nigeria, over 70%. And when you have a youth voting range, you cannot be talking about party membership that does not belong, that does not bring on board the element of technology.
Okay.
That is why that one is there. As to what PRP is doing, PRP is preparing. I like to let you know this. But for what we've been having in our electoral system, here and there, PRP won 5 reps in the 2019 election. And there were issues here and there. You may also have, you likely will be aware of what happened when they did the recounting of Benue State governorship election.
Yes.
And everybody was surprised at the vote that PRP came up with, only that PRP was not at the tribunal when the case went there. Otherwise, maybe Benue would have gone to the People's Redemption Party. Okay. They just concluded by-election at Jos Basa federal constituency. PRP beat both APC and PDP put together in that election. But for just one local government, they kept that result, and then for 48 hours or thereabout, they're just bigging it up, and we are in court, and we're going to get our mandate back. It does not matter whether election is overtaking it or not, we're in court on that. And that alone is a test for you what the preparation of PRP has been, and it's a party to beat in the next election. We have prepared ourselves, and our members are ready.
Thank you. It's so nice that we have one person here who is actually standing on the platform of the PRP for an election. You know, so one of the issues that people are raising, considering this exorbitant cost of nomination forms, that even the parties that say they are third parties or alternative parties, parties that, frankly speaking, do not even have much platform, election-winning platforms already in the country, are also charging exorbitant fees. You know, that, for example, in the PRP, to be elected president, you need to buy nomination forms for 10 million naira. Isn't this monetization of politics, which, for those familiar, again, with PRP's credos, that it goes against the idea of, I don't know what Malam Aminu Kano will be thinking now that his own party the presidential nomination forms is now selling for 10 million naira.
No, I think rather what we have to look at, compare what PRP is asking its aspirants to pay and what the other parties are asking the aspirants to pay. PRP is asking for presidential aspirants to pay 10 million naira, while some other parties are asking for 100 million naira. Now, that's the difference between daylight and darkness. And in the case of PRP, you know very well that it's trying to, raise finances to try to see how we could. Some of the things that the National Secretary has said are very expensive things, and we don't have any other means of raising revenue, and this is just a way of the aspirants appreciating and helping the party to move along, to be able to meet some of these, requirements that are very necessary for it. For instance, he talked about online registration. This costs money. He talks about somebody has to, maintain the base. He talks about, forms. He talks about that. And in a party that more or less doesn't have big wigs or what do you call them, these are the things that it does to raise money. It's actually, if you look at it, it's actually, something by the party to try to get, some of its aspirants, especially at that level, to be able to say, look, hey, this is what I'm going to, pay, so that at least the party can move, because we have a lot of things to do. We have ward elections to do. We have senatorial elections. We have primaries. We have logistics requirements and all that. And we can't go and raid a bank. We can't go and raid. We can't go and be corrupt. Nobody. PRP is not a corrupt party. We don't. We're not out there to make things difficult for us. But at the same time, we also want people to appreciate what the party. It's a platform. Help the platform to grow, and then you can also grow. So when you ask presidential aspirants to pay 10 million, it is way, lower than a party that asks for presidential aspirants to pay 100 million. Now, you have to look at PRP and what its finances are and be able to understand why it has to ask.
And if I may add,
yes.
Senator Toby, People's Redemption Party's nomination form for House of Assembly is just 100,000.
Okay. At the state level.
State level, House of Assembly.
400,000 PDP.
I don't want to mention them. You already know what they are.
Yes.
What they are
I
charging.
mean that for PDP, it can be said that if PDP is charging 400,000 and PRP is charging 100,000, I, as a potential candidate or aspirant who doesn't belong to any party at this moment, why I might feel that of the PDP provides higher chances and for just a slightly higher cost.
With the new electoral law, we believe a lot of sanctity has been brought into our electoral process.
Okay.
We believe also, of course, today, there is nothing called local government. The closest to people today in Nigeria in government is House of Assembly. And that is not a constituency you will want to monetize. That is not a constituency you will want to ask for. 400,000 for what?
Certainly.
Just to hold the ticket of a party as a qualification for a place to serve your people. We also believe that 100,000 is not out of place, that people could come together. We believe in this person, and not necessarily saying, go and pay it for yourself. This is one of the challenges we have in our politics. We have a politics of where one money bag does all the payments, pays all the bills, and put everybody down just like a grand troop. It may interest you to note that the last national delegates, the last national convention of the PRP on the 2nd of April, we did not give a dime to people to sponsor themselves to that place and to spend 2 nights in Abuja. All the records you saw, everything on air, everything you saw at Chida Hotel, on 2nd April, nobody was paid to be there. This is where the politics of this country should go, where people take from their own resources to pick their leaders.
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody will come to Abuja to come and vote for me.
Absolutely.
With their own resources if they don't believe in what I have done. Nobody will trust the national chairman. Nobody will trust any member of the executive at the roles from the zones, through the states, rather, to the zones, and then to come to the national level when you are the one paying for them. No, they will choose who they wanted, and they chose us. And we are duty bound to represent them. So what I'm trying to say is that people should own their government. People should own what they have. Rep in PRP is 250,000. Senate is 1.5. Governorship is 2.5. In fact, someone came to the office and was asking to verify whether it is true that governorship nomination form will be 2.5. I said, that is the amount. He said, is that possible in Nigeria? But that is the amount. Our circular is out. The guideline is there. When it comes to presidential election, 10 million naira for someone who wants to govern Nigeria, who wants to lead this country. One of the qualifications to being a PRP leader, you must have a job. You must have a business. Malam Balarabe in his days told me, he said, in fact, the first lecture he gave, he said to be a PRP member, you must be able to fend for yourself. You must be able to fend for your family. And if you have anything left you want to support the party with, but the party is after you being a responsible citizen, support the party with. We feel someone who has his job, someone who has his business, who probably have employed others and everything, should be able, with his clout, with his friends, with his family members, party members everywhere, be able to raise 10 million naira with which to help the party to fund the processes of election and primaries across the country. You know it's now 3. You are either going direct, you are going indirect. Of course, we are going indirect, or you are going a consensus.
Thank you. I was actually going to start talking about the primaries, particularly the presidential primaries, and then the National Assembly primaries and the governorship primaries across the states, where you may be stronger in some states than others, practically speaking. But that was when we come back on a short break. Thank you for staying with us. So far, we've been discussing about what third parties can do, or in particular, what the PRP can do in the coming elections. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us on Daily Politics. This is a program that takes a look at issues around policies, politics, and governance. My name is Shafiu Suleiman, and I am sitting in for your regular host, Suleiman, who is indisposed at the moment. We hope to have him soon back on the stage. Today on the platform, we will be looking at one pressing political issue, that is the much talked about Igbo presidency. Some call it a president of Southeast extraction. You will recall that since the return of electioneering ahead of 2023 elections, there has been a lot of agitations for what some people call Igbo presidency, against the backdrop of the prolonged absence, so to speak, especially at the top level of governance, talking about the presidency, perhaps the president and the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These are key positions that Nigerians are yearning for, across party lines, across ethnic divides, across regional divides, and so on. Now, we'll be looking at this against the backdrop of the impediments, to this, and of course, the prospect, if you like, or the imperatives. The Igbos, some would say, have not been, on the saddle for a very long time, for decades now, since even, right from after independence, when we had then the late General Ironsi, that is on the military front now. But at the democratic front, if you like, the Igbos lost touch with the seat right from the Second Republic. That was in the early 80s. When we had Dr. Lese Kweme then as a running mate to late Shagari, who was a civilian president. And after that, we had, series of democratic transitions. And the closest the Igbos had was, the Senate presidency. We had the Anyim Pius Anyim, who was at one point a Senate president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And since then, there has been this continuous agitations and yearning for the Igbo presidency. Yes, recently there has been also calls by some prominent Nigerians, elder statesmen, appealing, so to speak, to other sections of the country to consider conceding, the slots, the presidential slots, to the southeast, courtesy of the zoning arrangement and so on, which is also another key issue that has been agitating the minds of politicians across party lines. The APC and the PDP are yet to decide on where the flag bearer, the presidential flag bearer of their parties, should emerge. So we'll be looking at all of these issues against the backdrop of a contemporary political situation in the country, where we're running, a presidential democracy that requires, people to go to the polling units and, elect leaders of their choice. So we'll be looking at all of this on Daily Politics tonight. And I have in the studio to discuss these issues, Malam Ilyasu Gadu, who is a political affairs analyst. Will also be joined by Kacho Ononuju, Dr. Kacho Ononuju, who is one of the consistent advocates, for the Igbo presidency. He'll be joining us via Skype, from Ikeja in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. Doctor, if you're there, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. That's right. Okay, back in the studio, as I said, we have Malam Ilyasu Gadu, who is a political affairs analyst, joining us. Thank you for joining us on the platform.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Though I've been trying to, lay a background. It wasn't sufficient enough, but then let's start from there. But let me start with you, Dr. Kach. You're one of the people that, so much believe in this Igbo presidency, or the president of Nigeria of the Southeast extraction. Why the obsession, to this? In the democratic setting that requires, people to go to the ballot and decide, irrespective of where a candidate actually comes from. Dr. Aida? Okay, so while we try to, get Doctor to respond to that question, let me put it to you, Malam Ilyasu Gadu. Yes, I'm sure you've had or you've been hearing about this agitation, consistent agitation, sometimes even threats by some political actors, especially of the Southeast extraction, concerning this Igbo presidency. What do you make up with it in the first place?
Well, in the first place, I would say that in keeping with a democratic setting, people are free to express their views and also to contribute to, debates, that are germane to Nigerian politics, the Nigerian political development. And in this regard, the call for Igbo presidency, or an Igbo man, a president of Igbo extraction, Southeast extraction, should be considered in that direction. And intrinsically, there is nothing wrong with making such, appeal. And then, of course, if you consider it's coming from people who have been in the thick of politics in this country for a long time. You're talking about people like Chief Edwin Clark and Chief Ayo Adebanjo and some other people who have made such, appeal vigorously, in fact. And some also have made it in such a way that, look, we need to be able to have inclusiveness in this country. And that inclusiveness would not be complete if we do not have a major component of the Nigerian Federation, which are the Igbos of Southeast, considered, for the highest position in the country, which is the presidency. Now, this is a germane,
right.
It's a germane
call.
Yeah. But again, there are a lot of, lacuna in that call. which if you subject it to the democratic
Yes,
canvas.
that's actually what I'm going to ask you about, because, yeah, you talk about appeal, you talk about the need to concede, the need to consider, and so on and so forth. But some will be wondering if we're really losing sight to the fact that we are running a democratic system. And a democratic system requires people to go to the polls, requires first the aspirants or the candidates to reach out to Nigerians, across regional divides, across ethnic divides, to market themselves, to market their ideas, and then get the votes of the people. If we put this, side by side, to those calling for a concession or an appeal, for political parties to zone their tickets to this particular region, where is democracy that
because
I
was about to get to that. Against the background of the freedom of speech and freedom of association granted by the Constitution for individuals to air their views, to vent their feelings about, germane national issues. Against that background, it can be admitted that, yes, this is a germane call. But then if we look at it critically, in practical terms, is it feasible? Is it realizable? That is where the question is. That's where that's the kernel, of the discussion. And that's why we have to really, really look at it. And as you said, yes, this is a democratic setting we have. And we all know what democratic setting is all about. It's about plurality of ideas, plurality, and at the end of the day, plurality of choice. You do not stymie the right of the individual to be able to say, look, this is what I want to do. It's my right to vote, to vote XYZ or not to vote XYZ. It's my right. Nobody should compel me. It's based on my own conviction that this person or that party or this merits my vote. Okay. And I cannot be compelled to concede what I do not want to concede. Unless if you want
it's a matter of choice now.
If you want me to concede, then of course you have to give me the reasons, germane reasons why I should concede. And it should be based on discussions, based on dialogue, based on give and take, based on the fact that there's something in it for me.
Right. Okay, we have Dr. Kachi Ononuju right now. Perhaps that would be the next point of call. And let me ask Doctor this. Doctor, before you came back, after we lost touch with you, due to the technology issues. Malam Ilyasu Gadu here in the studio is talking about, the fact that we are running a democracy which requires, that people should reach out or market their ideas, market themselves as candidates, and the electorates have the ultimate choice, the right, to decide who governs. And then we're looking at it, just opposing it with the calls and appeals, that other sections of the country should concede, this time around the presidential slot to the southeast. Dr. Kachi, I'm sure you are aware that some will say politics is a zero-sum game, It's about the numbers, for instance. Beyond chance, given a chance, there's also need, for the Igbos, so to speak, or political class of Igbo extraction to assert themselves, to reach out. As someone said, politics, or leadership is not given on the platter of gold. Especially in a democratic setting, there is need for you to reach out and then play an inclusive kind of politics. Do you see this coming from the Southeast politicians as it is? Doctor, okay, right. Okay, we're still trying to get up. But you had some of the issues.
Yeah, I heard what he said. And I think in the process of making his case, he has actually contradicted himself. Because he talks about inclusion, and he talks about the fact that Igbos are everywhere in the country. They're the most widely, settled people in Nigeria. That
you find them in the remotest villages.
Yeah, so that itself is inclusion. Because if the country does not include, if the country is not open to you as a people, as a group, you will not be there.
You understand? So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, in terms of inclusion, the Igbos are already in Nigeria.
That is in terms of integration within the society.
Within the society, within the business
interaction,
circles and everything.
But
now,
what happened?
What they have not been able to do is in the political sphere. They have done they have not really, you know, played the role of inclusion in politics as they have done in business and other areas of interaction.
But he was talking about their engagement with the political parties. As it is, across party lines, you know, there are Igbos of impeccable characters, you know, Igbos who have had the capacity and who have perhaps, you know, had one or two things to do with issues of governance in Nigeria, throwing themselves, throwing their hats in the ring to contest, you know, for this president, for the candidature of these political parties. In the APC, you have a number of them. In the PDP, again, you have a number of them. With this, are we saying that they are not, you know, actively engaged in politics?
No, inclusion in this place has several levels.
Okay.
The first level of inclusion is what they have done, try to remedy or make good their lack of representation in the ruling party. They had been clustered in PDP for a long time, and then of course within that setup they sort of they restricted themselves to the opportunities available in the other political spectrum. Now they are, you know, trying to remedy that gap. Some of them are moving to APC, which is quite, you know, another, you know, it's another level of inclusion. But you see, you cannot ask for inclusion when you stay exclusive. That's what's happening. Inclusion must be total. You want to reach, you know, when it happened during the military, I mean, when there was that so-called compensation to the Southwest, it was the military arrangement to assuage some of the ills that the military had done to the Southwest.
But shouldn't such a political consideration or remedy be carried out at this point where there is a lot of agitations for, concerns with regards to perceived marginalization?
No, but
within the political space.
Let's even look at, examine or interrogate critically the calls or the calls or the allegations of marginalization. In the immediate past government, or rather of the government of Goodluck Jonathan, the Igbos were well represented. Let's talk about it. The Igbos were well represented in every strata of governance. They were everywhere. And you know,
are they marginalized in the current arrangement?
Well,
because that has been the bone of contention.
You just said it, that power is a matter of a zero-sum game. They gambled, you know, on the PDP retaining power. Unfortunately, PDP did not retain power. So the gamble didn't work. So they now found themselves out on a limb when the new political setup came up. And then
is it a case of putting all eggs in one basket?
That is, you see, in politics, you must be able to take what comes to you, especially based on the choices you make. I mean, for instance, the Labour Party in Britain would, when they go for elections, they know that they're either going to win or lose. When they lose, they know that there are certain reasons that they lost. It's clear. You went you put all your eggs in the PDP basket. And unfortunately, the basket of PDP didn't yield any fruits. It yielded fruits in APC. So that's where you have to make some of those gaps that you have. So now in this case, you want to be considered in the stake. You have to start from where you made the mistakes, meet the politicians halfway, and then let me even make this point.
Yes, okay.
Let me even
Very
make
quickly,
this
because
point.
Doctor is
the
back.
point is that you don't sit in one place and expect that you know should be given to you. We have a new dispensation. The military did that because at the point of the new dispensation they had the powers to effect things. But now there's no military. It's a marketplace of ideas, of activities. So you need to be able to say, look, hey, this is what I want. This is what we are expecting.
Isn't that what they're doing now?
Yeah, they're doing it, and it's correct. It is the right way. But they should also examine their tactics, examine their politics, and realize where they have gone wrong, so that there could be a synergy in terms of trying to solve this problem.
Right.